This is a heist for the Los Angeles Lakers. A brand new report has dropped surrounding the Lakers and one player in particular. That is wild and has huge implications going forward. We're going to break down this report and discuss what it means, but also some interesting updates that have dropped surrounding LeBron James. A ton to go over today, folks. Before you get into it all, if you're part of the percentage or aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support over here. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot to go over today, and obviously, the Lakers are still getting put in a lot of talk surrounding trades, surrounding even free agency to a degree, although that's kind of settled down now as everybody's basically found their team. But Rob Pelinka, especially after the Luka Doncic extension, basically came out and said that he isn't done. He's always going to be perusing the trade market. And a new report has dropped and lined things up pretty interesting surrounding the Lakers, and that is for Sam Hauser. And you can see this here. Lakers linked to Celtics sharpshooter as potential shooting upgrade. And the reason this is getting dropped now and why the rumors are starting to circulate surrounding one of these players, which is Sam Hauser, is because of the fact that the Celtics are in a unique spot where Brad Stevens came out and said yes, they do want to keep him, but they're going to be looking to trade and shed some salary. They most recently made a trade. Gosse, he's gone as well now, so a lot of things have started to open up, which could open up a possibility here for the Los Angeles Lakers. You can see here, Doncic has expressed a strong desire to lead the Lakers to an NBA title. We know that. And a group of NBA insiders gave several suggestions for how the Lakers could go about building a championship roster. One suggestion was a trade for Phoenix Suns guard Grayson Allen or Boston Celtics forward Sam Hauser. We'll have another video on Grayson Allen because I do think it is quite the interesting point of conversation, topic of conversation. But for now, we're going to focus on Sam Hauser. Now, I will preface this by saying, is it super realistic? It depends if the Celtics want to trade him and shed some more salary. He's on a fairly decent contract. The Lakers have the ability to match the contract pretty easily. But then, of course, the big question becomes, how will they go about, getting enough assets or at least trading the assets to get so? But turned 28 in December. We know how good Sam Hauser is. I'll dive into him. And if you're unfamiliar, then, he's a very, very good player. Last year, he averaged 8 points, 3 rebounds, 0.2 assists. A bit of a down year, but he still shot 41.6% from the three-point line, which obviously is an insane number. And I think for the Lakers, they have a little bit of, their team is pretty good at shooting at times, right? And you obviously have Luka Doncic, who may not be the most efficient three-point shooter, but hits tough shots. You have, Rui Hachimura, a very good three-point shooter, and assuming they keep him, like off the bench, you don't have a ton of three-point shooting. You have, think about, like Jake LaRavia, he can be pretty good. Marcus Smart, it depends a little bit. And then if you bring a guy like Sam Hauser in, you instantly have a much more formidable bench unit. And the article basically goes on to say the Celtics recently traded, obviously, like I mentioned, Gosse and 2 second-round picks, and that was to offload some salary. And if they want to stretch some more salary to now get, again, we know they're under the second apron, the Boston Celtics, and if they want to get maybe under the first apron or out of the luxury tax or closer to out of the luxury tax, they could move off of Sam Hauser to improve their flexibility. And that's where this comes from. It's not necessarily that the Celtics want to trade Sam Hauser, but it's that if they want to continue shedding salary and giving some minutes to their younger guys, Sam Hauser would be a name and has been a name all offseason that has been brought up in trade talk. Shams came out and said that, a trade for Sam Hauser is very likely, not for the Lakers necessarily, but earlier in the offseason, he basically said that, a trade in general involving Sam Hauser is possible and likely. Ultimately, it hasn't happened yet. They moved off of Holiday. Obviously, they moved off of Kristaps and things like that. But for those unfamiliar, he's on a 4-year, $45 million contract extension. So he would have, you come with some control, obviously, here. But the Celtics are open to trading Hauser, who's been a key part of the team. It could be a good fit for the Lakers. But, of course, the Lakers will need to send a big offer. Now, let's look at his stats. Of course, when he signed that, it was coming off of last season. So I believe it's 2 more years he's under contract. So or 2 or 3 more years, let me know down below. Very good three-point shooter, career 42%, and that's something that he does really well. He would essentially be this team's, off the bench. He could just immediately bring life to the bench unit and provide some scoring. And in a bench unit that is intriguing to say the least for the Lakers, like you do have some high upside plays. Jake LaRavia is very solid. I think he can take a step forward. Marcus Smart, very solid, but defensively he's not going to provide much from the offensive department, at least not as much as you may want. And then of course we know the Lakers starting lineup. You bring in Sam Hauser, someone who specifically, can rebound a little bit, especially for, not a lot though, obviously, but unbelievable three-point shooter, the best in the NBA, arguably. It opens up a ton for this Los Angeles Lakers team. And as you look at what they have, like again, that bench, he would immediately slide into the 6-man spot, maybe alongside Marcus Smart, depending on how you view things there. Again, I've been on record saying I'd prefer Smart to start over Austin Reaves and have Austin Reaves manning the bench unit. And if you have Austin Reaves in the bench alongside Sam Hauser, you're in a very good spot. But at the end of the day, it would really make for a deeper bench unit. However, what would you have to give up? Now, of course, the Celtics would want decent assets back. The number one trade package we're always going to use is Dalton Knecht, the 2031 first round pick, and something of that nature. Is that worth it for Sam Hauser? That would be the question. Obviously, if they want to improve now and really go for a championship, according to Dave McMenamin and players and analysts like that, Dalton Knecht doesn't have a ton of value. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, if you're the Celtics, obviously he has some value. You can take a flyer on him, and this would be the year for the Celtics to go out and get a guy like Dalton Knecht. They can play him a lot of minutes, especially if he's replacing Sam Hauser off the bench. It would be intriguing. And then, of course, at 2031 first-round pick, I don't know if the Lakers would want to give up that pick, which is probably their most valuable. I mean, it is absolutely their most valuable pick and trade asset for a guy like Sam Hauser, who absolutely would help them, has control and a fairly cheap cap hit, especially given the fact, with the way contracts are going. Let me know down below. Would you do a Dalton Knecht plus a pick for Sam Hauser? Obviously, if it's like Knecht in some seconds or even, Knecht in a swap or two swaps, I think I'd go ahead and do it only because of how good he is from the three-point line. But other than that, he is a bench player. He started, 40 games in his entire career, which spans over, 200 plus games. So he's not a huge, starter. But at the end of the day, a very unique player nonetheless, and one that I think could actually factor in and be a very good fit depending on what the package is. And if it's a first-round pick, I don't know if I'm convinced about the 2031 first. If it's some swaps or a swap in Dalton Knecht, I'd probably do that in a heartbeat. But at the same time, for the Celtics, for them to give up Sam Hauser when they have him under control, you'd probably want to give a decent player back, or at least some decent picks. And I think if they could have gotten good picks, they probably would have already traded them, which is why I think they might not be as expensive as some may think. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. Do you want to see them with the Lakers? Now, let's also touch on the rotation for next year. So there was an Jovan Buha basically, came up with a depth chart and how minutes could be spread. And I want to use this here specifically to kind of discuss A, how it fits into the Sam Hauser situation, but B, how this team is currently looking. Now, it's a Jovan and Tim's aggregate rotation. So basically just going in, guessing and using advanced analytics, all these different things to predict the minutes on a given night. Now, this here you can see it's DeAndre Ayton, LeBron, Marcus Smart, Reaves, and Doncic. That's who they assume the starters are. So I've obviously been talking about moving Revo to the bench and then having, of course, Marcus Smart in instead of him and then running Rui Hachimura. These guys think that ultimately they're going to put Rui on the bench and get Marcus Smart in, which I'm also fine with. I think Smart should be in the starting lineup. I think his point of attack defense will needs to be in there alongside Luka Doncic. I don't think you can have, Luka and Reaves as your backcourt, without having any other defender in the lineup. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense. But if they want to go with this, you can see here, obviously Reaves 35 minutes, Luka 36, LeBron 33. Other than that, you basically have Ayton, you have Smart, and you have Rui, all basically between 25 and 30 minutes, which I think makes a ton of sense. But you look beyond that, the bench unit is interesting. This is Jake LaRavia playing 16 minutes, and then Vincent, Vanderbilt, and Hayes playing a handful. I'm very interested to see how J.J. Redick actually uses these guys, because I think a 7 to 8 man rotation is probably the most likely. I think Jared Vanderbilt will play based on matchups, whether they need his defense. Gabe Vincent will play, I think, depending on how Austin Reaves really, or Marcus Smart rather, is playing and things like that, because Smart can be your backup point guard or running the point guard off the bench. So can Austin Reaves, and I'm not sold yet on Gabe Vincent's actual impact on the floor. I think Rui and Jake LaRavia are locked in. Jackson Hayes, obviously the backup center, locked in. I could see him getting some more minutes. So let me know down below what you would change about this and why you think this is good or it's bad, because it's going to be interesting to see how everything shapes up, especially even beyond next year. You look at who's locked up right now. A lot of free agents pending. This is after this upcoming season. It's going to be interesting to see, and that's why getting guys like Hauser to maybe help fill out could be good into the years beyond as well. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. See you guys later.